We gotta stop meeting like this. I gotta start making videos when I'm not driving. My name's Ollie, and here's your loaf of daily bread. Today's loaf comes to us from Albert Einstein, and he says, "As our circle of knowledge expands, so does the circumference of darkness surrounding it." A couple months ago, I did a series of videos that were all about the Socratic Paradox. The Socratic Paradox, if you'll recall, is essentially the following statement: I know that I know nothing. What Albert Einstein is saying here is another version of this sentiment. It's the idea that the more we learn, the more we discover, the more we understand, the more we realize just how ignorant we are. It's another paradox. The more you know, the more you realize that you don't know anything. And this is the final destination of the scientific method, in my opinion. Anybody who fully understands the scientific method knows that it cannot prove anything. It can disprove. And even then, it can only do so tentatively, because at any given moment, a new discovery or a new revelation could blow the entire theory out of the water. So at the very core of the scientific method is this Socratic attitude, this humility, this uncertainty, and lack of total confidence in any one idea, theory, or belief. The scientist is always testing things, always observing, always calculating, and never jumping to conclusions. Because the true scientist knows that there are no conclusions, only theories which are constantly being refined and retooled as new evidence presents itself. There's a great book called Fooled by Randomness by a guy named Nicholas Taleb. And he talks about how the past and all the data that we have collected from past experience is only good at telling us one thing and one thing only: what happened in the past. It can be used to model and to predict the future, but it can only do so in a limited way because it is restricted to what came before. And it doesn't account for things that have never happened yet, but that can still happen any day. The author uses the example of some big stock market crash and how a lot of these stockbrokers were saying, this has never happened before. How could this happen? How didn't we see it coming? Well, I think that the person who brings up these types of points is actually answering his or her own questions. It never happened before. That's why you didn't see it coming. You can only predict things if you have a frame of reference for them. Hence, what Albert Einstein is telling us in this very powerful statement. As the light of knowledge grows brighter, so too does the circumference of darkness. Every time we answer one question, we're presented with another dozen. And each one of those 12 questions will produce more questions when answered. So there is no conclusion and there is no end to knowledge. There is only uncertainty and the ability to change your mind, to change your beliefs as new experiences and information presents itself. Since adopting this attitude, I have found that I am far less prone to anger, far less prone to anxiety and insecurity, because I have no attachment to the so-called facts, and I have no attachment to the so-called beliefs. These are just things that are helpful to me, and I'm ready to discard them at a moment's notice if they stop being helpful. They're tools, and they are symbols. They are not real in and of themselves. So I use them as I see fit, and when their usefulness expires, or when I find that they haven't actually been as helpful as I thought, then I toss them out. In any case, that's it for me. Thanks for joining me once again, and don't forget to live well, my friends.